Welcome, gentle beards, to the Beard Bro podcast. We are joined this evening or morning, really depends on your perspective, with our co-host, Beard Bro Joe. And on today's topic,
Hey.
well, thank you, Beard Bro Joe, for providing that eloquent introduction. Hopefully, the eloquency will continue throughout this podcast. But on today's topic, we will be talking about formative literature. So, while most people associate this, and we will be touching on literature through our childhood, specifically our fellow Beer Bro Joe. It can also be literature that you read later in your life as an adult, or a book that was recommended to you and just captivated your interest. So we will be starting with the literature that Beer Bro Joe provided, unless you would like to say a few words before we jump in. Well,
Nah, I'm good.
well,
I'm a man of few words when
conciseness
I need
is
to
a
be.
quality that we appreciate on this program.
I will also say I'm probably going to be doing a lot of talking about the titles that I selected for this, so we should just give the people what they
This
want
is
and
true.
get to the content.
Well, we will begin with the first example of soap. Don't drop the soap. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Don't drop the soap. That is a much different title. Well,
Sir.
excuse me.
Sir.
Excuse me. Soap, Don't Forget the Soap, the children's book by Tom Birdseye. A forgetful boy gets himself into trouble when he repeats what each person he meets on the road says to him. Well, take it away, Beer Bro Joe.
Well, I mean, when I was a young child, my family took a lot of road trips, and on every road trip during the very early years, we could not go on a road trip without this book. We would always check it out of the local library, and we would listen to the audio while me and my sister would like share the book in the back seat and read along with the audio. That I'm gonna be honest, I forgot to look into it and remember it because it has been more than 20
It's
years, I
some
would
time
think,
since
at
you've
this point.
regaled your brain with the literature beauty that
Yes.
is the soap. Don't forget the soap. For the readers at home, the cover image is of a young boy, with this particular edition, the subheading being an Appalachian folktale of a young boy, a young redhead, with a leather cap, and holes in his shoes as he sits in a bucket of water with overalls and, you know, being a young lad, not the cleanest, and in his left hand he is holding a pink bar of soap. And really, this describes the entire book because he clearly has not forgotten the soap. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Hold on. Yeah, it had a very profound impact on me. I will say I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons why I tend to hold on to as many little details as possible to ensure that I don't forget, the small things. Like, it does not translate well into certain aspects of my life, but I know for a fact that one reason people tend to gravitate towards me is because I pay attention and keep track of the little things that most people would not even think to keep track of. Um, like little details about my friends and stuff like that. Uh, and it also, I think, probably had something to do with the fact that I was, or it contributed to another fun little thing about me where I could memorize random numbers and be like, okay, this specifically when it came to TV. I memorized a lot of the TV channels for all of the different shows that my family would watch throughout the week. And I was like, it's this day, so we need this channel at this time and stuff like that. Um, yeah, it's definitely a book that when I was younger had a very
And then
interesting
I do
effect
have the
on me.
summary here to see if it will refresh your memory. Plug has such a
Yeah,
bad
that
memory
would
that
be
all the folks in Sassafras Hollow thinks he could forget his own name. One bad day, Plug's mother sends him to the store to buy soap. Soap! Soap! Don't forget the soap, Plug says as he walks along. But Plug does forget when he has several hilarious misunderstandings with people he meets before returning to his mother. So it is interesting that you're talking about like remembering the specific details because, as I described the image before, Plug does remember the soap. It seems that he may have forgotten other instances of conversations with the people he meets along the way, but he remembers that specific piece of information. So I think this can widen to a like larger conversation about the pieces of information that we latch onto, like as we're growing up and becoming who we will be, and yes, who we will become,
become.
versus the minutia of like smaller day-to-day things that gets forgotten because it's less important. Indeed. Indeed. And
Yep.
now we will move on to the next series, which is the Magic Tree House series by Mary Pope Osbourne. Now, I am also familiar with the series because I also read it when I was a child. And the fantastical settings and I think the sense of adventure and the like responsibility of the respective main characters of Jack Smith, who was the older brother, and then Annie Smith, who was the younger brother, and the younger sister. Well,
Brother,
Beard is
Annie was a
the Jack. Jack is the older Beard, and then Annie is the younger Beard. Well, yes. But he is being the older Beard, he's known for
what?
his responsibility. And then Annie is the
Sir, is
younger
your
Beard,
brain
and she's like,
okay?
more daring and like impulsive and like she cares for people. Well, I just, yeah, because we
You
are
know
the
you're
Beard
saying
Bros.
beard,
We
right?
have to relate it back to our audience that, if we don't throw Beard in here somewhere, they're gonna lose interest and turn it off. Yeah.
Beard, beard, beard,
We
beard,
like the
beard,
big
beard,
beards, the
beard,
small
beard,
beards,
beard,
the
beard, beard,
medium
beard.
beards. We like the blonde beards, the brown beards, the red beards, the black beards. Bob, shout out to Henry Teach.
All the beards.
We do not
Oh,
condone
yes.
piracy, but we
Blackbeard
like
is,
his facial hair. Yes, we condone his
we
beard indeed.
condone his beard.
Wow.
We
Yes, but
absolutely condone
actually,
that
don't
man's
they
beard.
meet up with Blackbeard through the Magic Tree House? Isn't that one of the adventures? There are many books. There are
How
many
many books
books.
are there?
But speaking of books, the one that you particularly highlighted was one of the Merlin mysteries, because of course Jack and Annie are going to run into Merlin. And it was titled Blizzard of the Blue Moon. And I'll read the synopsis and then you can jump off of that. So, Jack and Annie travel in the Magic Tree House to the New York City of the Great Depression in 1938. They must help a unicorn under a spell. However, two evil sorcerers in training, Balor and Grinda are up to the same challenge. In this book, Jack and Annie are given the power to make magic on their own via a magic wand. So how did this form your young brain, your young beard?
Well, I think it definitely helped me to expand my imagination, for one thing. Also, uh, you know, I don't even know how I got this far into our conversation without bringing this up because this is actually a very important part of this
Mm.
particular conversation. Um, when I was in first grade, I was diagnosed with a learning disability where I would read a word on a page, flip the page, see that exact word, and not be able to recognize it. So I had trouble reading when I first started. And then I went to a reading specialist, and a week later, I could read like no other. And by the time I graduated from elementary school, I was reading at an eighth grade level. Um, Reason why that's important is I think a lot of the books I read in elementary school after first grade was just me exercising that newfound skill of going from not being able to read to I need to read every word I can get my eyes on. This particular book I know had a profound impact on me because I already had a very vivid imagination. I liked imagining. Imagining was fun. I think I imagined a little bit more than the average kid, just because I found it to be a nice way to exist in the world. And I know it helped to inform my sense of adventure that I've had for most of my life. Uh, you know that, and also all the road trips I took from a very early age, where I would read in the back seat. Uh, I just loved reading, and Magic Treehouse was one of those series where you could read and get a bunch of different experiences without having to look very far. So I think that's really what drew me to the Magic Treehouse books and why I have such a fond memory of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think um I mean just with the titles of the first 5 books, like Dinosaurs Before Dark, The Night at Dawn, Mummies in the Morning, Pirates Past Noon. In the Pirates book, they don't meet Blackbeard, but they meet Morgan Le Fay. Um, Actually, they also might meet other pirates because I was like, oh right, Morgan Le Fay is a pirate. No, she's the counterpoint to Merlin. Night of the
Oh,
Ninjas is the 5th book. I think just
yes.
these titles and the amazing cover art really captured like children's imaginations about thinking that, well, like reading can be tedious and a chore. Coming from an English major, I recognize that resistance that people have. But if people find a series that connects with them, then reading opens up so many more doors, and you can find such pleasure from like opening up a book or opening up an ebook and just losing yourself in whatever material, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, biography, uh, plays, poems. There's so many mediums that give reading a try. Give reading a try. Yeah.
Yes, I concur with that
And
message.
reading is fun. We like
Reading
reading
is
here.
fun.
You got to make sure the beards. You got to read to them before bed. Got to read to them in the morning. And if you're really on top of things, you can squeeze in a reading session. Mid afternoon, right after lunch, right before lunch. Stuff some knowledge into those beards. Get it. But now, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on of Magic Treehouse? Yes, whether you really
Of
enjoyed
Magic
like the
Treehouse.
main series, or if you really enjoyed the Merlin series, or excuse me, the Merlin missions, as it is uh,
I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I just know that that particular unicorn book I checked out more than once and read it more than once because I really enjoyed it. So and also you'll find that a lot of the books um in this episode that we bring up, they're also full of a lot of humor, which I think contributes to my overall just good natured humor, where I am able to find a lot of stuff funny that not necessarily everyone else would find funny.
I agree. Your sense of humor
I
is
like a
one of your
bad
defining characteristics. Nyah, 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 nyah. And again, as I am refreshing myself on my knowledge of the Magic Treehouse, the the Merlin missions were written for more advanced readers. I did not realize that there was a difference between the main series and then the Merlin missions had, you know, had those compound sentences separating themselves from the simple sentences.
Look, I don't know if y'all know what Reading Sparks is.
Well,
I think that's what it was called.
well,
The advanced reading group at my elementary school. I got invited there once. Um, but I got invited in the middle of the year, and so I only went one time because I didn't understand you're supposed to go
oh,
back
is
every
it like a
week.
different classroom compared to
At that time.
your regularly
Yes.
scheduled broadcasting of
Yes.
education?
And yes, and because of that learning disability I had, I was considered special ed. So, explaining it to me might have been helpful. But it I'm not too torn up about it because I can still tout the fact that in
Mm.
5th grade I was reading at an 8th grade level, and had I continued on that vein of being a reading connoisseur and devouring the books as quickly as I did back then, I'd be reading at a much. I probably would have been reading at a college senior level by the time I graduated high school.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. Well, I think
I think.
regardless, your reading level would have been increased, and you would have started reading more difficult books
Yes, I would
before,
have.
you know.
I mean, I did read difficult books. I've been reading difficult books for a very long time. Um, and it surprises people how good my retention rate is on some stuff. Especially from the books I read. I don't know why. There was an incident a couple days ago now, December 2nd, 2022, where I was reiterating a very, very, very small portion of the knowledge I have about something we'll talk about later. And people were like, "How do you remember all this?" I'm like, "This is nothing compared to what I actually know. This is like a kernel of corn compared to the whole cob."
Fair, fair.
It's a molecule of a kernel of corn on a cob of corn. So I just think that reading is so much fun, and doing it, you tend to just lose yourself, and it's a nice place to go in life, into the world of
And
reading.
speaking of going somewhere, we're going to move on to the next formative book, which is titled MVP, with an star, also known as the Magellan Voyage Project by one Douglas Evans, and uh, the 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 synopsis. Well, it's not quite the synopsis, but
Synopsis.
like the hook. Yeah, the premise for this one is every kid's dream is
Premise.
to be named most valuable player. But how many ever dream that the game is a race around the world, parentheses, no flying allowed, close parentheses, in just 40 days? That's the challenge Adam faces in the great global game. As the player for the Magellan Voyage project, he competes against others for a $4 million prize. Man, with inflation, that's basically meaningless. Trackers with blowguns and a nefarious baron don't make things easy. Uh, Gotta throw in that inflation joke, but seriously, please go down inflation, please, please. Yeah, yeah,
That
or at
would be
least slow
very
down,
much
slow down a little
appreciated.
bit. Yeah, because I think this. Now, I myself am not familiar with this book, but Beer Bro Joe will talk more about this. But I remember as a
I actually
excellent,
just read this
excellent.
recently.
But
I
I remember
reread
as a
this
child, like
recently.
hearing about like a $1 million prize. That was like life changing money. But now, as you get older and you think about like whenever you hear like a lottery winner like wins like the Powerball lottery or like a lump sum of money. Now I think about like taxes and like whether it's better to take the lump sum, which I think in most cases it's still better to get the yearly sum, so then you're betting on yourself to live long enough, and I think the taxes are better. But regardless, if I ever win the lottery, I'll let you know, dear readers, and it will be glorious. But for yeah, there are listeners.
Aren't they listeners? No, no, you said dear
Well, they
readers.
can.
I'm having a hard time
Well,
keeping track of
they
what's
can
going
read.
on in this
They can read
conversation.
and listen. Why not? They read the book and then they listen to this. They do both. But what? No,
What
no, they
book?
can read
We're making a
Magellan
book
Voyage
too?
Project. They can read this book.
Man.
Yeah, the book we're talking about. The
Oh.
book that you said you read recently.
Oh. Look, man, I thought you were
No,
calling our
they're
listeners
listeners.
readers.
But
I'm here. I
well,
promise. I am here. I'm just having a hard time
well, listener,
following
you
conversations
can
lately,
decide whether or
apparently.
not Beer Bro Joe is actually here, or if I'm just impersonating him. So now, speak on this project. I mean, from our previous episode, the listeners heard about your semester at sea project, or your semester at sea experience. Not really project.
Yep.
Um,
Definitely influenced that. Again, sense of adventure just really came partially from the way I was brought up, but also from the books I read growing up. I really just wanted to go out and see the world. And I know that this book in particular influenced what kind of way I did that when I did it. Because the best way to see the world, in my personal opinion, like outside of the US, is to do a whirlwind tour. A sprinkle of each continent, a sprinkle of the cultural experience. It's not enough to get you, the full experience, but it's enough to get you hooked and interested in going back and getting the rest of the experience you didn't get before.
this is true.
You know, it's this definitely when I know for a fact that when I first heard about Semester at Sea, my brain definitely subconsciously thought of this book and how it was so interesting the way that what'd you say the
This
main
is
character's
Adam.
name was? Adam. Oh my god, Adam. Adam is I did just
Again,
read this
listeners, you
book,
can be
but
the
it
judge of
was
that.
also like it no, it was it was either at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, and a lot has
No, this
happened
is
since
true.
then. Am I
The
wrong?
world continues to be exciting
So
in all the wrong ways.
oh absolutely. Anyway, um Adam goes through this adventure, and as he goes through the adventure, he Um, he grows as a person, obviously, because he's doing this without his mother's knowledge. He's supposed to be at summer camp. Um, and he, the one thing I really like about what they did with Adam was they made him a fair player. When he has a shot to um, make another player not like mess with another player's ability, he does not take it, and in fact he tries to help that player because he's like, I'm not a mean person. That's not who I am. And he stays true to his values through the entire adventure, not really compromising. He's so focused on playing by the rules and not trying to cheat, which a lot of the other players actively cheat. So that's a nice lesson to throw in there for the little kids. And he also just he he does not give up. I think there's only one spot where he thought about giving up, and then he was like, nah, man, I'm doing this because I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it so that when I get the money, I can treat my mom who takes care of me. He wasn't even doing it for his own reasons. He was doing it so that he could treat his mom to a vacation. I like noble people.
It is nice. And looking at more information about young Adam is that he is 12 years old and that he lives in San Francisco, California. And apparently, he doesn't have that many friends at school. Sad. Sad.
Yeah.
Well,
If
if only
only.
what? If only Adam had more friends.
Nothing.
Wow. If only Joe, who was reading this
No.
book, was like, if only I had more friends. Here, bro.
No. I had more friends probably by the time I started reading this. Pretty sure it was in
Oh wait,
like middle
are you
school at
saying
that
if
point.
only I had less
I
friends?
don't
Is
even
that what
remember
you're
when I
saying?
read this.
All right, Beer Bro Joe
I
is
don't
going to
know what you're
plead the
talking
filth.
about.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Bill,
Beer Bro Joe is
is
going to
your brain
be
okay?
covered
I'm
in filth because
impersonating
he's going
Beard
to
Bro
plead the
Graham.
fifth. So he does not become tarred and feathered and is run through the streets. And speaking of streets,
That is...
we have the next series of Geronimo Stilton, who lives of the streets that his newspaper, the Rodents Gazette, lands on every time it's published by the titular character, Geronimo Stilton. And since Beerbro Joe said that he enjoys Geronimo so much, I will read his brief synopsis and then we can go from there. Geronimo Stilton is the protagonist and editor and publisher for the Rodents Gazette, the most famous newspaper on New Mouse Island. He has a love of knowledge and has a sense of ethics and morals, but in spite of this, he is still a bit lonely. He is somewhat of a coward because he does not like to go on adventures with his family and friends, although he is passionate about writing adventure stories which sell well. He was adopted by the Stilton family when he was young. Good on the Stilton family for providing Geronimo with some opportunities so that he could become successful and have a lovely pair of spectacles on his small mouse nose. Yes, it is now your turn.
Oh, is it my turn now?
Yes, yes.
To discuss it? Well, I know for a fact that Geronimo, one of the reasons I still love Geronimo Stilton, I haven't read one of his books in years, but I would happily read it if I could find one. But I would also want to own it because that was such a great series. It had so many puns, which If you know me, you know I love puns. It's one of my personal favorite things. A lot of people groan at me because of all of the puns I make.
Oh no,
Would
this is
that
true.
not be true,
Your
Beard
sense of
Bro?
humor and your sense of timing with your
Groan.
puns will make the groans come out.
And I just find joy in that. So I will say there are a lot of puns in this, and again, common theme you'll find a lot of adventure. It's a wonder why I'm so adventurous, um, and why I want to go on adventures and take people with me on these adventures. Because, one thing I learned from this book is an adventure is fun, but an adventure with someone you know is even more fun because it allows for a little bit more of what's the word? Spontaneity. You can leave a little bit of room for that random thing that you weren't expecting to show up, or you find something along the way and you're just kind of like, all right, let's check out this giant statue of a green man in Blue Earth, Minnesota that we didn't even know existed. It definitely helps. This is a series that'll help you grow your sense of adventure within the adventure. It allows you to learn that not every unexpected thing is a bad thing, and not every bad thing is a bad thing. Sometimes a bad thing can turn into a good thing, or sometimes a bad thing can come with a couple of roses on it. Every rose has its thorns. This book series helps you to learn how to deal with the pain of grabbing a thorny
This is
rose
true.
by the horns. Because
Well,
mixing metaphors is
well,
also something I do.
if a rose has a pair of thorns, maybe clean your glasses, or blink a few times to make sure you're not just grabbing a bowl.
Yep.
It does
Yep.
seem like again, the similar to the Magic Treehouse by Mary Pope Osbourne, and then Geronimo Stilton, the series of novels is by Elisabetta Dami, an Italian author. That Geronimo Stilton's younger sister, Thea Stilton, is similar to Annie in being more spontaneous and adventurous and getting into trouble.
Yep.
But going back to the to
Very much
your
so.
statement about experiencing things with other people, it seems like this continues throughout the series, in that Geronimo Stilton has adventures with the aforementioned younger sister, Thea, his cousin, Trap Stilton, and his favorite nephew, young 9-year-old Benjamin Stilton. And that, wow, yes.
My question, I don't know if they ever say who Benjamin's parental unit is, you know? Because if his sister is Thea, who I don't think I know that she is Benjamin's aunt, so is there a other sibling that is the parental unit of this favorite nephew? What happened to them?
This
Why
is
don't they
the
make
dark
an
backstory
appearance?
of Geronimo Stilton, and Elisabetta has chosen not to write about it because it is quite sad and depressing.
I was not going for that. I was just asking. I don't know that I ever found out who
Yes,
Benjamin's parental unit was.
because that's the
And I
murder
always
mystery
found that
part.
kind of
That's
interesting.
the dark graphic beginning.
Sir, please do not
Well,
ruin this.
it's like when
Please
you
do
think of
not
like
ruin
Martha and
this.
Thomas Wayne,
Uh,
like they love their dear old Bruce Wayne, but they live happily on a farm. They live
Old.
happily on a farm somewhere.
Oh, you are an evil person.
And speaking of evil people, who's the main antagonist within the Stilton series?
That is a wonderful question.
Let us
I do not know. I cannot
let's see. We
recall.
have Sally
Um,
Ratmousen. She's the publisher of the Daily Rat, the Rodent Gazette's biggest competitor.
yes. Yes. Yes, that is the newspaper, rival newspaper. I did not like that character one bit. I don't know why. I feel like she definitely reminded me of an opportunist, and also, someone who has to be right. You know who she reminds me of? But like way, way, way,
Well,
way,
I'm
way,
sorry,
way, way
specific
more
listener, that
watered
you're about to
down.
be insulted. Well, Dolores Umbridge,
Dolores
if you are
Umbridge.
a listener, let me know where the magic is. Why do I gotta be a muggle?
Um, Sir, you do not want
Bro, if there's
Dolores
a
Umbridge
magical
talking
person
to
in this
you.
world, I will talk to them,
Um,
regardless of their personality.
Look, all I'm gonna, sir, uh, you do not want her specifically talking to you because she's the everyday evil that we all face. I was actually reading something about this today of why more people can agree on despising her over Voldemort. Like Voldemort is some fantastical evil that not a lot of people in their everyday lives
Dolores
face,
Umbridge is the
whereas
everyday
Dolores
evil.
Umbridge
She is
really
the more
represents.
realistic evil that
She's that.
she will
She's that
encounter.
uncaring. Yeah, she's that uncaring manager, or that person who's like, I actually this is how this is supposed to work, and if it doesn't work that way,
Mm. Quite
I'm gonna
pedantic.
tell your
This is
manager.
this is true.
That kind of person. Yes. Yes. So this woman is a very watered down version of that, to the point where it's just barely a comparison. But because I read that article today, Dolores Umbridge was floating around my head as a villain. So interesting how what you read has such a big impact on what you say
This is
and do
true.
later
What
on in the
is what is
day.
the phrase that she has, like Harry etch into his skin through this? Uh,
I will not lie.
mm.
Something like
Oh,
that.
I must
Something
not
about
tell
lying.
lies. Yes, yes. As he
I
writes it in
must
the
not
paper,
tell
and he's
lies.
like,
That's it.
because it's being etched into his arm.
Yes. And now those scars, if I recall correctly, were actually still there
Well,
many
a
years later.
lasting gift from Dolores. Yeah, she was looking out for Harry. She was looking out for Harry. She was
She
like,
was
Harry, I know you got
absolutely
a lot on
not.
your mind, so I'm just gonna have you etch this into your body, and then you'll never forget. You'll never forget. I'm on your side, Harry. Okay, I'm on your side. Well,
I I do not
well,
agree with your
well. Let us
interpretation of
continue
that.
to Joe's next series of books that he enjoyed, which is Deltora Quest 3 by Emily Rodda, also known as Dragons of Deltora here in North America. It follows the adventures of three companions,
Mm.
Leaf, Barda, and Jasmine, as they journey across the magical land of Deltora to awaken the last seven dragons and destroy the Four Sisters, which are creations of the evil Shadow Lord which have been poisoning Deltora's crops, causing the people and creatures of the land to starve. So, the Deltora Quest series
Yeah,
by Emily Rodda. Wow.
Emily Rodda.
Ooh.
Definitely a very important series. I still to this day want to be Leaf. I love Leaf. Leaf is honestly my favorite character in that entire series. I do not know why I resonate so much with Leaf. But I know for a fact that the Dragon books definitely captured my imagination when I read them the first time, and I actually just reread them a couple years ago during, you know, the time of 7,000 years. That is the last 3 years of our
COVID-19
lives.
really has changed
Uh,
the sense of
I
time.
refused.
Well,
Yes. Anyway, so I read the entire series from the beginning of Quest all the way to the last book of Dragons. I actually own all of them. They are a great series. Specifically with Dragons, uh, Leaf and his crew of Barda and Jasmine go around waking up all of Deltora's ancient dragons who have been put to sleep by this traveler of the lands to make sure that they survive the time during which the Shadow Lord takes over Deltora. Um, there's like a whole ancient belt thing that gets warmer as he gets closer to the dragon, and all the dragons have specific territories that are related to the ancient tribes of Deltora, who there's like 7 of them, and each one has a special stone, and then there's a dragon that's related to that stone. There's the ruby dragon, the opal dragon, the azul um Krakatoa. Crap.
no,
What is that?
we have the
Um no, sorry, lapis lazuli. Lapis lazuli, um the diamond dragon, the what is that last one? Topaz, the um there's one more, and it's like a
yes. Their quest is
amethyst,
to
is
find
it?
the 7 gems
Amethyst?
of the fabled belt of Deltora: the topaz, the ruby, the opal, the
No,
lapis lazuli, the
that's
emerald, the amethyst, and the diamond.
that is Deltora Quest. That's the first series. Um but they go on a very similar quest in Dragons, and there's some unfortunate news about some of the dragons, and then the Emerald Dragon. The Emerald Dragon was
Yeah, I
kind of a
feel like
mean
each
guy.
dragon would be associated with
He was
one of
kind
the
of rude.
gems.
Yeah, but the Emerald Dragon, I remember that character was
Yeah,
not a
not a
nice
nice dragon.
person. Well, nice dragon. Like, not all, they were all kind of, not
Well, I
nice
think
per
you just have
se, but
a different perspective
um
because most dragons in literature are portrayed as being, hundreds or thousands of years old. I think once you live beyond a normal human lifetime, the just your scope and perspective changes so much.
well, no, he wanted to eat the
Well,
main
sometimes you're
characters
just
for waking
hungry,
him up.
and these uppity adventurers come up to your den, and they knock on your door, and you wake up, and you're like, "You didn't even bring me breakfast. I'm gonna eat you."
They also I also vaguely recall him not wanting them to wake up the other dragons. He's like, "Nah, don't do that, because now I want their territory. He was a little greedy. But
Oh,
in the end, there's some major crisis that brings all the dragons together, and they work together to defeat the sisters, and then there's like a super sister or something in the middle, and they go and take care of
and then going
that.
back to the Emerald Dragon, it is Honora, Dragon of the Emerald, and fourth to be awakened.
Yes. That was in the third book. That was the Sister of the
Yes.
North. And that one involved a circus. Right? The second book was the second book. No, that was the second book. The first book has them.
Well, for Dragons of Deltora, we have Dragon's
the
Nest,
Ruby Dragon.
Shadowgate, Isle of the Dead, and the Sister of the South.
Yeah, Shadowgate. Okay. Shadowgate. Shadowgate is the second book, and that is when Emerald wakes up. But you know, it was a good series all around. It was definitely one that I will probably read again in my lifetime, and I will also probably when I have small humans of the what are
Progeny,
those called?
Gremlins, Goblins.
No, yeah, no, God damn it. The familial variety. There we go.
Oh yes, not
All
of the
humans of the
variety that you just
familial
kidnap
variety.
off the street, and then you're like, now you're my family. And then their parents are just like, why? Why are you stealing
Why would
my
I
child?
kidnap?
And then other parents are like, yeah, you can have him. Just, return him later.
Bruh. I don't want to
Well,
kidnap
they're
a kid. Do you
expensive.
know how much a kid
Also,
costs?
they bite. They bite as well.
Which is, yeah. You know what else they do?
Yeah.
This is for all of our bearded ones out there. They pull on beards.
Well, it is
and
painful.
It is very not nice.
Yes.
And very
brings tears
uncomfortable.
To your eyes.
Yes. In fact, I'm pretty sure one of our listeners has done that in the last 7 years.
Wow. So
don't
just
know who that could possibly be.
Some subtle shade coming out from the tail end of the Dragons of Deltora. But this is an interesting series because I don't know if it's more well known. I'm sure, since it's a Australian series by author Emily Rodda, I know here in the U.S., the Dragon series that I read was the Aragon series.
I read the first book of that. I think I have one of the other ones. I never got through it though. I either have the red book or the black book. I read Aragon. I actually ended up getting a couple of toys from that era. There were some dragon toys that came out around the time Aragon was popular.
No, Aragon.
Aragon
is the dragon. Aragorn is in the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, well, in my defense, I
paid
attention to both.
Yes, Aragon.
And it's literally one letter difference.
Well, also, yes.
In syllables.
Yes, this is the series is called The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. And it has the Aragon, and then Eldest is the red book, and then Brisingard is the yellow or gold, and
Elders.
then inheritance is the green.
I've never seen Inheritance. I think
Yes,
Brasinga
Brisinga.
or whatever you said. That that is the one I have somewhere in my collection of books, which one day I will have enough
Well,
bookshelves to put them
physical
all
books
up.
are nice. As I as I mentioned earlier, the
Physical
ebooks
books.
they're great for like convenience and not having to lug physical books around, but turning those physical pages, there's nothing else like it. And just like the sense of finality after
Therapeutic.
you close, you finish reading the last page and then you close the book, and then you just enjoy. You look back on the journey and you're like, that was good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's personally I prefer physical books because I get a headache from I've tried to read an ebook once and I got such a bad headache that I just was like, nah. The only ebook I have ever owned where I was actively using it, and I use the term actively very, very loosely, was on Semester at Sea, the textbook for the universal class, which everyone had to take to be on the ship. I had as an ebook, but in the end, I ended up somehow with a signed copy of that textbook. I
And
don't
then
remember how.
a quick tip for our listeners, which I recently heard from um, the podcaster and YouTuber Ali Abdul, is that after you finish a book, you should like take some time and like write some notes about it. Like write your reflection about it. Just have like a small notebook, or even on the supercomputers that we all carry within our pockets. Just like write some have a little like self-reflection about like your feelings, the message you got from it, and just have like revisit it, like as Beer Bro Joe said, like he wants to revisit Dragons of Deltora, and how interesting it would be to have like a record when you originally read it to then compare it to your rereading, and how you could just compare the different stages of life that you were in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree completely. Because as you get older, you get different perspectives.
And keeping a journal and consistently keeping a journal will be your best just record keeping of your own personal voyage that you make throughout life. Because all of these books have really touched on like the voyage. I mean, specifically with the Magellan Voyage project, literally a voyage in 40 days, but the voyage of your life. Like, there will only be one, and it will be unique because it is yours. Why not, take some time out of your day, write some words down, write some feelings down, record some events in your personal logbook.
Make it leave your mark of your life for others to
Yeah,
be able to reflect on the lessons you learned and the journeys you took.
it is. Well, it is. I think for yourself, because others may not like.
I mean, it's for yourself, but
Yeah.
also
I
don't
think
be
like
afraid to
the
share
the
it because
aspect of sharing is
it'll,
definitely important, but I think for like your self reflection and
and
growing.
also, yeah, it's for self reflection and growing while you're alive, but someday you won't be, and it'll be your
Yeah,
way of saying, hey, look, I was here. This is what I thought in this time, and this is how I interpreted
yeah.
this
And then your descendants
situation.
will look at it and they'll be like, Florida wasn't underwater? What? What? Oh my god.
The world?
The
The world
world wasn't
wasn't
underwater
underwater?
and
What?
simultaneously on
What?
fire? That is insane. It's fine. It's fine. Well, just, well,
Life is
it's fine.
very...
It's fine.
Yes.
And now
Anyway.
we will get to the next series of books, which is, only uplifting and positive and definitely not depressive and filled with stories of trials and tribulations and coming up short.
I think we both
indeed,
know this is the one I was waiting for.
Your favorite fictional universe, which is, with many people now working on it thanks to Disney's acquisition of the Star Wars property. Harry Potter! Oh my god, Harry Potter Star Wars crossover. Let's go. Dolores Umbridge is the
Did you say Star Wars before I said Harry Potter?
I said it afterwards. You said Harry Potter first, and then I was like, Harry Potter Star Wars crossover.
Yeah, I was trying to. I was trying to mislead them.
Dangling Harry Potter in front of all the listeners.
Just I was trying to make them all be like, wait, what? Disney owns Harry Potter? No one would actually believe that. But I probably could have gotten at least a few
Harry Potter
of them.
Now?
For a second, no, that's
right.
Universal.
Universal is the other one. Disney will acquire Universal eventually. It's inevitable. But
Warner Brothers, I think.
Regardless, Disney does not.
Hold on.
Yeah, but Star Wars is such an interesting property because pre-Disney acquisition there was so much just lore of Star Wars, and now there's like the official Disney lore, but then there's still like the Star Wars Legends, which Beerbro Joe really enjoys the Legends, but there's Andor, there's the Mandalorian, there's
Andor, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, really hitting slammers with their TV shows. Their movies leave a lot to be desired. I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for that one. I don't care. The only good thing that came out of their movies was Rogue One. I think there was one other one, but I'm going to just go with Rogue One.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that's the only one I can remember.
There is literally no other Star Wars movie out there that came out after 2000 and whenever the third movie
Revenge
came
of the
out.
Sith.
What, 2005?
Yes, 2005.
Revenge of the Sith, then Rogue One, and that's it. That's all there is in terms of movies from Star Wars.
Yes, this
you can't tell me otherwise.
Joe's personal Star Wars canon. I myself am a fan of The Last Jedi, and then Solo, is a movie.
Very much doesn't exist, and I will set anyone on fire.
Han Solo's naming scene of the Imperial Guard, literally
saying, the worst thing in the entire.
Who are your people, Han? And Han's just like, I don't have people. And he's like, I'm gonna name you Solo. But we're not here to talk about the movies, Beerbro Joe. We're here to talk about the books. Well, specifically the Star Wars. Oh my gosh, I was thinking about Han Solo. The Star Wars X-Wing series.
The Star Wars X-Wing series. The Star Wars X-Wing series, which is actually a very wonderful series, and I'm not going to let you talk about it at all because this is my favorite. I'm going to go off script, and I'm just going to go on a rampage. The Star Wars X-Wing series is the first series that I ever read in Star Wars. It is by far a classic in my book, pun intended. And it follows the journey of Rogue Squadron after Episode 6. It basically goes through the development and growth of this elite squadron for the rebellion, and they play a crucial part in a lot of key points in the early history of the galaxy post Episode 6 in Legends. They're responsible for liberating Coruscant from the Empire. They also discover this young hotshot pilot known in the book series as Rogue Nine, or Corran Horn, who is the descendant of a Corellian Jedi. Fun side note, Corellian Jedi did get married, and they had their own special rules because Corellians don't listen to anyone's rules except their own. And the name of that particular young hot pilot's Jedi family, his last name is Halcyon. Which, if you know anything about my screen names across all the platforms, my screen name is Thrawn Halcyon, which Thrawn is another Star Wars character. But Halcyon, I named it Halcyon in honor of that particular character, because he is my favorite Jedi character. Yes, Thrawn is great, but not as great as Corran Horn, who is this very unique guy who serves as Rogue Nine. And his wingmate is I want to say a Niven, who's got like, what are they called? Like a death warrant in a couple systems. I think he's also like some sort of wolf type humanoid. Anyway, in the early parts of the series, oh, I forgot where I was going. Corran Horn actually gets kidnapped during the liberation of Coruscant, and a super star destroyer that just randomly was built under the surface of Coruscant explodes out of the surface, killing a whole lot of people, because that is not a small ship. And it turns out that it was a giant prison for the Empire. So a lot of people that you may or may not know were actually on that ship. One of which was Jan Dodonna, who is the guy who leads the rebellion forces in the first fight against the first Death Star. In the movie. He's that lovely guy with the white hair and the beard. He's actually was captured shortly after the scenes of that film and taken to this prison ship, which everyone lives on the ceiling for some reason. Don't ask me why. They don't realize that they're not on a planet. All they know is that they're, for some reason,
are you going
on a ceiling.
Does all of this happen within the Michael Stackpole's 10-book series of Star Wars X-Wing, or is this just... Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No, this all happened
from the
in
first
the series
of Rogue Squadron, and then Wedge's Gamble, the Krytos Trap, the Back to War, Wraith Squadron, Iron Fist, Solo Command, Izzard's Revenge, Starfighters of Adumar.
Stop.
Back it up.
Back it up. I believe most of these events happen back to back up to and including Wraith Squadron. At some point, Wedge Antilles, who actually is in the first movie and is actually in the ninth movie, which was one of my favorite things that they included. And he's a wonderful character all on his own, and also he's a Corellian, so that's a fun thing. Corellians in the book series are very large. They're a very important part of the X-Wing series, actually. They get a huge feature. Also, the Corellians have their own unique culture that just pops up everywhere, and you're just like, oh my gosh, that guy's a Corellian. And it's just so nice. But anyway, the whole series just is a lovely little tapestry of parts of the early history of the New Republic after they defeat the Empire at Endor.
Following, or not following, but under the direction of Wedge Antilles through Rogue Squadron.
Yes. Yes, it follows this very, like, the Rogue Squadron is the elite squadron of the New Republic. That's their flag, like their token squadron. They only get sent on the hardest missions, and they play the most critical parts because they are the most capable people. That's the squadron everyone wants to be in.
Yes.
If you're in
Which
Rogue
was
Squadron,
named in
you're the
honor
elite.
of the Rogue One squad, who sacrificed themselves to obtain the plans of the Death Star. Look at that circle. What are you talking about?
No. Rogue Squadron was a thing long before that movie was ever made. And also in Legends, there's conflicting canon as to how those plans got to the rebellion.
Well, talking about the conflicting reports of Star Wars canon, we'll be here all day.
Well. Oh, you have no idea. Also, I'd just like to say that the fact that I'm spewing all of this information is, again, only a kernel, or only a molecule on a kernel of corn on a cob. So, you think I've spouted a lot of information now? Ask me to give you ask me to give you my 2-hour lecture on the history of the Star Wars galaxy from beginning to legend end. AKA all of recorded history based off of what I can get my hands off of on
but
when it comes to the Legends
who are not
material.
As invested as you are, dear Beer Bro Joe, into the Star Wars canon, is there a specific book that they should read of the Star Wars X-Wing series?
X-Wing series? You should read the X-Wing series.
Well, yes, but I'm saying, like, within the 10
that
books.
That is barely
like,
scratching.
Should you just read Rogue Squadron?
No.
Or do you have to read all 10?
No. You should read all 10 because they don't all deal with the same part. Like, reading Rogue Squadron, that's like reading the first book of Harry Potter. Yeah, you learn stuff about some characters, but that's just the beginning. There's so much more that happens after that.
Going off of that information, what themes did you find in the X-Wing series? Yeah, what themes? Yeah.
What themes did I find? Community for one. Community and camaraderie, betrayal, confusion, misdirection, brutality.
Lots of brutality.
Well, I mean, flying a what? How big is that?
What, an X-Wing?
No. Flying a 19-kilometer long ship up through a city from underground is a bit brutal, because also I'm pretty sure it was under residential section of Coruscant. 5 miles of ship. 5 miles of ship is a bit. Oh no, sorry. 12 miles. There are conflicting. According to 1984, it was only 5 miles, but in later years, it was described as being 12 miles long. So that's a 12-mile ship, and they just kind of flew that out. It was underground, and instead of removing the buildings that were on top of it, it just flew through those buildings, basically exploding them. And also, I'm pretty sure it also used turbo lasers to dig a hole for this ship. So that, and then also there was a bio weapon used when the Empire pulled out of Coruscant. I'm pretty sure at one point there's literally a war crime where a little colony gets completely obliterated because they happen to be aligned with the rebellion and not the Empire. The Empire literally takes AT-AT walkers and wipes out that entire village just for their affiliation.
The Empire do not play.
They do not. Also, one of the Rogue Squadron members turns out to be a double agent.
Betrayal.
Who sells out her entire squadron because her family didn't want to give up their exclusive rights to a literal drug that is widely used in the Star Wars universe. They basically had a monopoly. So, yeah. I would suggest, if you're gonna do a series, or if you're looking at the X-Men series to read, you should read all the way through, at least to book 9. Book 10, you'll be very confused because book 10 is many years after the rest of them. But book 9 is a very wide brush that covers a lot of time in the early years of the rebellion, post Endor. It shows you what the galaxy looks like, not from Coruscant's point of view, not from the government side, but like from the side of a squadron that's deployed in all these various sections of the galaxy to sort of do the finishing acts of cleaning up what's left of the Empire after Palpatine dies. Actually, when I moved recently, when I was away for the last year, I took that series with me and I intended to read it, but I didn't get a chance. So that series is actually at the top of my list for what I want to read, because the series I'm currently rereading, because I've basically read all of the Star Wars novels at this point, and now I'm just trying to finish my collection, fill in the books I don't physically have. But anyway, the series I'm currently reading, I do not have all of the books, so I have to work on getting my hands onto those so I can read through all of them again. And I will say, one of the things I like about Star Wars books is there's a lot of serious stuff in there, but they do love to throw in some quips and some jokes, and it definitely helps to, sell the whole thing, because it brings the characters to life, and they're not just 2D
Yeah, I
expressions.
found even, I mean, the only novel within Star Wars that I've read was the raising of Boba Fett under Jango Fett on the cloning planet, or no, not the cloning planet. What's yeah, Camino. Um,
Camino?
well, a very
What
specific
book
one
did you
that I
read?
do not recall at this moment, but it dealt with some more adult themes than I was expecting in this Star Wars book, since my previous experience was just the prequel trilogy. But it does address more important themes, rather than just being a general, pew pew space adventure. Indeed, indeed.
Okay. I'm very I'm very confused because I don't know what
Well, I
possible
think it
book
was
you're
just
referring to.
a very general, like, Star Wars chapter book, I think.
Oh, it the only books that I'm seeing when I look up this type of thing. Ah, would it possibly have been called
I believe
Blood
so.
Ties? Yes. So, judging from the font on the cover, do you know around about when um you you
Like, how old
read
was
it?
I, or like what year?
Just
I'd say like middle
generally
school,
age
unless you're
range,
unless you're referring to
maybe?
the comic series.
No, not the comic series. You
Yeah,
said
I
it was
believe so.
more of a chapter book, right?
Yes.
Interesting. I'm
Oh
not
yeah, here we
familiar
go.
with
Yeah, Blood
that.
Ties: A Tale of Jango Fett
It's
and Boba
in
Fett. Yes, yes.
Yes. That was written in 2011. The
Mhm.
I do not know this book. It must have been from one of the series I didn't read. Because there are some series that I didn't read because they just didn't appeal to me. But like Blood Ties, I guess I need to get my hands on that. I also, judging from this, oh, you know why? Because I don't think that book is actually canon,
Oh, it's
even
just
in
an auxiliary
Legends.
story about Django and Bubba.
Because, yeah, it's an auxiliary story. Because in a lot of the Legends books, after a certain period of time, they have like a chronology of all of the books, which I is how I got my hands on a lot of them. And also how I kept track of what was canon and what wasn't canon, because there are some things that contradict each other, and it's very hard to keep track unless you have like a set
Yeah,
in
managing
stone.
canon. I am glad that I am not part of the Disney team that has to manage, the canon.
Um, I will say that even within Disney's own, well, even within the official canon of Star Wars, there are some contradictions that are very perplexing, like glaring
Well,
contradictions.
again, we are here to talk about the novels, not the contradictions in Star Wars
Yes,
canon.
I'm aware. I'm just saying I'm just saying, even some of their novels contradict what's happened on
Wow.
screen.
Wow. Wow.
And some of their TV shows contradict what has happened. So, but also, I have not read many of the post-Disney buying Star Wars books. The only ones I've made the exception for are really the Thrawn series, and now I'm starting to read some of the newer stuff. Like there's a book about Count Dooku I just read a couple months ago, which really gave me insight into the man and the fact that he was a very, very flawed man from the beginning. And also, Yoda has some issues,
Indeed.
but
That will be a topic for a future episode.
Yes, I cannot wait till we do conversations about Star Wars in the future, which we will definitely be doing. It'll be very
Yes, it will be very,
very
fun for
fun
you.
for
And
me.
I will be rooting
Not
hard
for
for The
Graham.
Last Jedi. That is what I will be bringing to the conversation.
Graham, when those conversations come, I have a feeling you may run screaming
Star
from
Wars.
this
But
podcast.
that's what happens when you invest into a series, is that you gain strong feelings for it.
And Star Wars is the series I invested in because it gave me that thing that apparently I was missing in 4th grade on. And then I just my dad loved Star Wars, so I started reading Star Wars, and I just kept finding more and more material, and I was like, I like this. This is fun. I'm enjoying this. This is nice. And I had a best friend who was also into Star Wars, but not as much as me, and I tried to get him to read some of the books so we could have deeper discussions, which is why I've twisted Graham's arm to read some of the books so
And
we can
indeed,
have
I
deeper
think the
discussions.
first series that I will read will be the X-Wing series. Yeah.
Really? Do
Yeah,
you
that'd be
want to
cool.
borrow them?
Yeah, that's useful.
I have all of them. You'll have to wait till I move though,
Yes,
because I'm pretty sure they're in storage,
Well,
which will hopefully be soon.
well,
But yeah,
indeed. But I think the
so
main themes between all these books, relatively, because soap, don't forget the soap, does not, well, it's still a book about like adventure, and
still
then Magic
it's
Treehouse
still
adventure, the
yes.
Magellan Voyage project adventure,
I'm
Geronimo
very
Stilton
much
more
into
adventure,
adventure.
Deltora Dragons a literal epic adventure, and then Star Wars an adventure throughout the galaxy. I feel like this quote by
Yes.
J.R.R. Tolkien, from Bilbo's advice to Frodo. It's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to. And I think that really applies to the formative literature that you chose, that you really enjoyed the journey that these books took you on.
I still enjoy that journey to this day. A lot of the book, like I have a lot of books. I'm not gonna lie. I was raised in a house where you cherish books, and a lot of those books, I like fiction, and I like fiction that takes you on an adventure. And someday I hope to write some adventures for other people to go on. In fact, speaking of adventures, I'm a aspiring amateur DM who likes to come up with adventures for my friends to go on.
This is true. I think for any of our listeners who haven't entertained the idea of being involved with Dungeons and Dragons or some sort of role playing game, it's the tabletop role playing. Is that
Tabletop roleplay.
it's the ultimate form of imagination and expression, and that and adventure,
And
and that
adventure.
you get together with friends or newfound friends, and you explore the adventures that can really take you into some interesting and not conceived of places before. Yeah.
Yep. And on that note, I think we've taken our listeners on quite the adventure
Yes,
through my
I would
formative
agree. It has
years.
been quite an adventure from all of these book series and your thoughts on them. And now this adventure comes to a close. Yeah. Do you have
Yep.
any additional thoughts on the series that you've reminisced and refreshed your mind on, or do you think you've done an admirable job of recapping them?
I think I didn't do an
This is
admirable
true.
job,
You
but
are no
I
Admiral
think
Akbar.
to add anything else, well, that was just a trap.
It was.
You set me up in a trap. No, I think that to try and come up with something else at this point would do a disservice to what we've discussed thus far. And I think that leaving the listeners with that lovely quote, if you'd be so kind to repeat it, I think that is the best way we could leave them to contemplate what we've discussed here
Once
today.
again, the quote from J.R.R. Tolkien of Bilbo's advice to young Frodo. "It's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to." Which really, that's what life is, you know. You prepare as best you can, but ultimately you take that first step and you're off. You're off on the adventure.
Yeah. So go out, take an adventure in a book, and or, take an adventure in a book.
Honestly, just
take an
just
adventure in a
read books,
book.
please.
This is me telling, read, just read. Read. It's a lost art. It's a lost art that a lot of people in their older years don't necessarily get the chance to do until they retire and or are working less. Reading adds a lot of value to your life. I don't know. I like reading, and I think everyone should read because I find it fun, and I think people will probably find it fun. And if you don't find it fun, you just haven't found the right genre that clicks with you. Because I know people.
No, continue.
Go ahead. I know people who have told me, I don't like reading, and then I'm like, try out this, or they later tell me, oh yeah, remember when I said I didn't like reading? Well, I found something that I liked, and now I love reading. It doesn't work for everyone, but I think the majority of people, when they get the chance to sit down and read a book for fun, they find it is very relaxing and nice.
Indeed. And so read, dear
So read.
listeners, enjoy your adventures, and we will see you on the next one.